Hey everyone, been a while. It's me, Mickey Mike Alive, and yeah, it's been a few days, not that long. Just a few days. I've only been gone since Tuesday. So yeah, school recently just ended for me, so now I get to come back to go do YouTube full time along with Twitch, which means now I'll be streaming throughout the week whenever I can. Not a lot as I will on the weekends, but still I will. You'll see me maybe tomorrow, I don't know, it depends. Now recently, as I was ending with school, I went back to think about my YouTube channel and my viewers. Now I know that most of you that are here aren't really Nuzlockers or Pokemon enthusiasts to begin with. You're like friends, family, or probably maybe either or. So I thought this would be a great chance to get us all on the same page on how Nuzlocking works and the guide to doing it. So I bring you today Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green Hardcore Nuzlocke, but how to Nuzlocke the game instead, because I know most of you aren't really in that trend. Now, throughout this challenge, I am going to be going through the early game in this video. I will explain in greater depth what that means later, but basically this is my run of Fire Red that I am using as an example for everyone else to understand their Nuzlockes. And as we go through the game, I'm going to explain each part in depth, from gym leader to rival to simple trainers that can end your runs. We're going to explain Pokemon, trainers, encounters, everything in general, so that way you all have a great understanding of how Pokemon Nuzlockes work. So anyways, let's get straight into the run. After naming myself and my rival, I go to get my Bulbasaur. That's right, we're not using Charmander or Squirtle. Now if you're wondering why, it's because Bulbasaur is actually the best starter in the game for the early game, because of its resistances against most of the gym leaders in this game that include Brock, Misty, Lieutenant Surge, and Erica, which are the first 4 gym leaders, by the way, make this an excellent encounter. I also forgot to mention Koga, since he's also a poison type, that making it 5. But the problem is that after early game, it starts to fall off, and it starts to become your supporting Pokemon rather than an attacking Pokemon, which is really good for Nuzlockes, but either way, it works. Charmander you can choose if you're feeling lively, if you feel like you've got early game in the bag, which with Charmander is a lie, you do not. Due to you not getting the best encounters before Brock, that is only like you get a Rattata or a Pidgey or like a Mankey. The Mankey is a very lucky pick, and you won't always get it. Along with that, Nidoran does get double kick, which you are able to get at the same route as Mankey, but don't count on it. Expect you to yourself to get a Rattata or a Pidgey. Don't expect these high quality encounters to just come to you. Know their encounter rates and when they're going to come for you. Squirtle kind of falls into the same bag, but Squirtle's actually okay to use. You can use him. Brock is easy for you, and Misty, he's resistant against water, so I guess that's pretty good. But after Lieutenant Surge and Erica, he falls off in the mid game, in the late early game, and beginning of mid game, because of his weaknesses. He does not do as well as you'd expect. Also, getting a fire type that will resist your rivals much stronger grass type, which will probably be Venusaur since you pick Squirtle, is kind of hard because you only get a few fire types in this game, and Growlithe being one of them is actually a very lucky pick. That's the one that you get early on, and you don't want to rely on luck. Now, before we keep going any further, I want to explain what early game means. The definition of early game means that we are in the earliest part of the game, as stated in the name. This is usually where your learning curve starts and you get used to the fundamentals of the game, and also the Pokemon aren't as higher leveled as you'd expect. Now, Fire Red and Leaf Green is actually a pretty easy game. I believe it to have a much larger early game than mid game. Mid game is a bit smaller. They're divided into 3 groups, which I just said: early game, mid game, and finally late game. Late game, I'd say, covers basically the latest part of the game, right? Your Elite Four, your champion, the last few gym battles that you get. So I consider this to start when you go for your second gym batch, which is Blaine. Mid game, although, is a bit shorter, in Fire Red and Leaf Green, as it only contains Koga, Sabrina, and Giovanni, and your rival fight that you have in Sylph Co, which is a bit smaller and scoped down. Usually mid-game is a bit bigger, but in this game, not so much according to my definition of this. Mid-game and early game and late game are all different in their own right, depending on which Pokemon game that you're playing. But in this case, we are going to keep going until we beat Erica, and that is when I believe early game ends. We give the Parasol back to Professor Oak, and we get access to Pokeballs. Now I go for my first encounter, which is a Pidgey, which I gladly take. Pidgey is okay, he's not the best encounter, but he'll be of use to us. Being a flying type does give us some access to speed, quick attack, and a whirlwind later, which could come in handy depending if we're a tough situation. But probably not. I wouldn't say Pidgey's your best encounter. Here actually, the premier encounter, the encounter that you want, is Rattata. Rattata is your major encounter that you want because it has Guts. Guts is the ability that allows, if your Pokemon is either having any type of status condition, which includes paralyzed, burn, or poison damage, then it gets a buff in its attack stat. You mainly want to go for poison because paralyzing means you may not have the chance to hit, and burn actually lowers your attack stat, so you don't really want to go with any of those two. Poison is your main one, as it only deals damage to you, and it depends on how poisoned you are, if you're badly poisoned, if you're slightly poisoned. After getting our Pidgey, we go to the route over to the side of Viridian City, which gives us one of the encounters that I think will mostly help us in this early game. Mankey. Mankey is great because not only is it a fighting type, and it's only unique in this game, because if it's fighting type attacks, Brock will be pretty easy for us, meaning we won't need to rely on our Bulbasaur. We go through Viridian Forest, which we do mess up our Metapod encounter because we don't have enough Pokeballs. Blessed, keep Pokeballs on you at all times. You always want them. If you want, I'd say hack in Pokeballs if you feel like you're not going to always remember. So it's not really cheating out the game. I'm just saying, like, if you really want to confirm your encounters, you should probably do that if you feel that way. I do get a Rattata, which is pretty nice, although it doesn't get Guts, which is pretty sad. It gets Runaway, meaning that I am guaranteed to run away whenever I want, as long as I am in a wild battle. I quickly dismantle Brock. Brock is a pretty easy gym leader when you have two Pokemon that can defeat him, that being my Mankey and also my Bulbasaur. Mankey makes quick work of both of them, rendering Brock completely useless, winning us the gym badge. We make our way forward, we get the running shoes, we keep going forward towards Mount Moon. We also get a Jigglypuff encounter, which is pretty nice. The Pokemon Center right before Mount Moon gives us access to Magikarp, which will be our saving grace and great Pokemon in this run. Magikarp, although seemingly small, is actually pretty good. You can buy him for 500 Pokedollars in the Pokemon Center by this guy in the corner who's selling them, probably illegally. But it doesn't matter because Gyarados is a really good encounter that gets Intimidate, which lowers your attack stat with your opponent, which is pretty good, making Gyarados have a much more supreme attack stat already. It's pretty much a monster as it gets Thrash, Bite, Tackle, and Dragon Rage. More on that later. We get a Zubat in Mount Moon, and as we encounter some of the Team Rocket grunts, we get to the fossil section, and rather than choosing Helix Fossil, we go for Dome Fossil. That won't be covered in this episode. We don't get access to our fossils yet. We're going to do that a bit later. After making it to Cerulean City, I get an Ekans encounter right outside Mount Moon, and then I go straight to heal up my Pokemon as I'm about to take on the next rival battle, which is pretty easy. He does have an Aber here, which will become a Kadabra later, but no biggie. We beat him, no sweat. After that, we grind up legally, which is probably now a good segment to talk about how I've been using rare candies rather than grinding my Pokemon. Let me explain. In Pokemon games, grinding is a bit tricky. If you do grind your Pokemon, you are already a bit better than other Nuzlockers. Nuzlockers. You are already better than most Nuzlockers because grinding is fundamental in Pokemon Nuzlocks, especially with these level caps. You have to know where to grind, how to grind, where to get EVs. Oh, EVs. Yeah, EVs. Effort values is what they're called, or what they stand for. Effort values are given to each Pokemon, and they're given a set amount of number. And whenever you defeat said Pokemon, you get their effort value. For example, if you are fighting a Pidgey and you defeat it without leveling up, you will get 1 Speed EV, which will make your Pokemon faster when you get a level up. Your level up will give you more speed, allowing you to be more quicker than other Pokemon in the field. If you know how to EV train correctly and go to the certain Pokemon that give you if you know how to use this correctly and you go to Pokemon that have certain effort values or EVs, you are top notch. You know what you're doing in these Nuzlockes. Always go to like Bulbapedia or something and look up the natures or the effort values, as these will help you throughout your runs. So because of these boosts that effort values give you, I decided to take them out as a fair trade and added a patch that gave me no EVs at all, meaning that no matter how many Pokemon I defeated, my effort values would be still at 0. This created a fair way to play while also being able to use the rare candy so I could speed up the game in order to get it out to you in time. This doesn't really change any gameplay. The only way that you change gameplay in Pokemon is actually how you do well in the battles, and getting rare candies doesn't change anything because I'm grinding before the battles. So, I mean, nothing big there. Anyways, Misty was practically destroyed. We devastated with our Ivysaur due to being already stronger. But wait, that Starmie is a psychic type, a water psychic type in fact, although it doesn't really matter because Starmie doesn't have any psychic type moves. That's right, it only has Recover, Swift, Rapid Spin, and Water Gun, making this pretty easy. We have no trouble getting through this, although if it did have a psychic type attack, we would be in a bit of trouble, but no, we were pretty much fine, just Razor Leafing our way away. Do be careful as it does have Recover, both the Starmie and the Staryu. You must be careful about this as they can stall you out if you're not careful or run you out of your own PP on your moves. So do be careful when fighting them and know that Misty doesn't need potions in order to beat you. As we keep moving forward, we do get to Bill, who has become a Pokemon somehow. I mean, this doesn't make sense. Genetics don't work like this. But either way, we somehow, with the magic of the creative universe, return him back to his human state, and he gives us the ticket for the SSN, which will be used later to get us some more nifty treats. We keep heading downward as we also get a Meowth encounter, and we beat the Team Rocket getting Dig. This will be used later. We later get to Vermilion City, which is where we get access to the Old Rod. Old Rod will be useful, not really. Old Rod only gives you access to Magikarp. We want the good Rod so we can get Horsey, but we won't get that till mid-game, so might as well just ignore that for now. After defeating our rival, which is pretty easy, although do be careful as Kadabra's on his team. Kadabra is a pretty strong Pokemon and becomes Alakazam later on. You want to be careful as this psychic type is very much overpowered and you don't want to be caught in his way, not knowing what to do. Luckily, I had Gyarados and Gyarados had Bite, and Gyarados was faster and much stronger, so we won entirely against that fight. We got cut from the SS Sand Captain, we got a Great Ball, which is not really important, but you know what is important? Brick Break. We're going to come to this later, as this move will do us some good later on in this run. Also, we get a Cherry Berry, a Pecha Berry, and a Yacha Berry. Lieutenant Surge is the Electric-type gym leader, so we must be careful, as having a Cherry Berry will make sure we don't get paralyzed, and if we do, we'll just heal ourselves using the Cherry Berry, as it's held on us and not used on us. There's a difference. Lieutenant Surge, although having the most frustrating gym to be honest, I mean, come on, the guy gives you a hint saying it's right next to you, so you assume it's right next to you, but then you go there, it's not there. What if it's in the corner? How come you can't get it? It's a frustrating gym. Every time you get it wrong, you have to restart, and you're basically betting your time on whether or not this is the right trash can or not. But either way, I get through it, save immediately so I don't have to worry about it, and take on Lieutenant Surge. I gave Dig to my Raticate, because as much as I'd love to use my Diglett as it doesn't take damage from any electric-type moves, it's pretty weak in general. A Slam will take it out from Pikachu, and I don't want that happening, as the trio could be useful to us later on in the run. So, I give Dig to Raticate, as Raticate is much more stronger and faster, making this pretty much a sweep. Although do be careful for your Voltorb, as Voltorb does have Sonic Boom. Sonic Boom, if you don't know, does exactly 20 damage, unlike Dragon Rage, which does exactly 40 damage. Now, I say damage, but it should be HP. The HP that you have on your Mons will do exactly that much damage with Sonic Boom and Dragon Rage. So be very careful against these attacks as they do very exact damage. Dragon Rage being the most scariest in your case. You don't have higher than 40 HP on your Pokemon, you're practically dead if you're not faster and stronger. So do be careful against these type of moves as they can take you out easily. Although we do get static, which basically makes our Pokemon paralyzed if we hit with a direct attack on another Pokemon. Is kind of annoying. We do have that Cherry Berry which came in clutch, but then Pikachu also uses Thunder Wave the same turn, rendering our strategy useless. Although we make a few switches and easily beat the Raichu. No biggie, no hard trouble, third badge is ours. Now that we have cut, here comes the hard part, Rock Tunnel. This is going to be annoying. Now, I thought I could just stroll up being the cool kid and just go through Rocky Cave with no trouble. Because I thought I had this down by memory. But guess what? I did not. I messed up a lot of times, had to look up on Google Images, finally found the correct one from the floor that I was on, and suddenly the worst thing happened. We suffered a loss of our Pokemon. Our Raticate was digging through these Geodudes from this hiker fellow. This hiker then sent out Graveler. I was like, alright. Without checking his moveset, I used Dig, which is the worst move that I could use there because he magnitudes and gets a magnitude 8. If you don't know how the move magnitude works, it goes from a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. Kind of simple, but it gets an 8. Not only that, but since I'm underground, it does double the damage. Moves like Bulldoze, Magnitude, and Earthquake all do this, so very much be careful and don't Dig. Dig is the worst thing you can use if you know someone has EQ or Earthquake. That's short for it. And I get Magnitude 8, plus the double damage to me, because of Dig, and I lose Eradicate forever. After reaping our loss and finally getting out of that wretched tunnel, we get to Valander Town, which is supposed to be the spooky town. With the Pokemon Tower, which is where Pokemon go to die, we decide to switch up our team for the next rival battle. Not a very hard fight, I'd say. There is the Gyarados, which you want to be careful of, and I don't have an electric type yet, so my strategy for this is just to hit it hard with my other Gyarados, which works entirely since I'm higher leveled. Do be careful for Thrash, because after 2 or 3 moves, it will get confused, but either way, it's still going to do that major damage to you, so be careful. The Execute is nothing to worry about. It may be a new Mon, but it's nothing compared to his Kadabra, which will do major damage with confusion if you do not know what you're doing. It also has Kinesis, which lowers your accuracy, making your moves miss a lot, so try to kill it in one hit with a speedy Pokemon. That's kind of what you want in these games, especially Nuzlocke. Speedy Pokemon who are fast, that's what you want, unless you have a better strategy. After beating our rival, I decide, let's go down and go to Celadon City, because I want to beat the 4th gym and Giovanni to end off the early game. So, I make the decision to cut the grass in order to go and get an encounter, which turns out to be a Growlithe, which is pretty nice. I mean, Growlithe is a really nice Pokemon. It's cool and all, and it's really rare. Don't evolve this thing early, as most things that evolve with evolutionary stones, such as Firestone, Waterstone, and Thunderstone, or Moonstone, won't be able to learn any moves after all. They only can learn moves through heart skills since they're their level 1 moves and you don't learn any others. So I'd say the best time to evolve or your Growlithe into an Arcanine is at level 42, because after level 42, Growlithe learns Flamethrower, and that's kind of all you need. Also, whenever you evolve your Arcanine, you get Extreme Speed, so you do want that on you. After that, I decided to go to the Rocket Hideout under the Gambling Center. Now, something unfortunate happens here again. While we're defeating the Rocket Grunt that gives us the lift key, I get self-destructed by a Mankey because I'm not paying attention to the level and also the movesets. Do this. Watch the movesets of the other Pokemon. Look for these Run Killer trainers with self-destruct. Before we take on Giovanni, I want to list all the other encounters that we got and how useful they are. The encounters that we get are Hypno. We get the Diglett that I mentioned before from Lieutenant Surge. We have the Pidgeotto and the Ivysaur that I mentioned. We get a Zubat from Mount Moon, which became a Golbat. One thing to mention about Golbat, by the way, is that it does not evolve in this game. Yeah, Crobat does exist, but unless you have the National Dex, you don't get a Golbat. and it wants the Ruby and Sapphire national deck, meaning you have to wait until you get to the Sevi Islands in order to get it. We get the Growlithe that I talked about that was going to be really helpful. We get an Oddish, which becomes a Gloom. The Meowth that we got, the normal type, right off of Route 5. A Sparrow that we caught recently, which we will not use. More on that in the next video. We get a Machoke from Rock Tunnel, which is pretty helpful, as this will be our new fighting type since we lost our Mankey. Our Ekans evolved into a Arbok. There's the Gyarados that I mentioned. We also got a Weedle, which is now a Beedrill. We did catch an Eevee though. Not really caught. It was a gift Pokemon given to us from Celadon City. It's something that you always want on hand. An Eevee is really nice as it evolves into many different things that you want. I wanted to go with Espeon as it is a very good Psychic type, but I thought I really need a Water type. The Jigglypuff that I mentioned before is not as useful now, although it does have Sing. Alright, that's all the Pokemon. Back to Giovanni. We're about to take on Giovanni, and I want to set up my team straight. I lead off with the Vaporeon. I chose Vaporeon rather than any Espeon, since I didn't need a Water type. So I gave this thing Water Pulse, and it wrecked through the first two Pokemon, which were Onix and Rhydon, which were pretty easy. Rhydon? No, it was Rhyhorn. Rhyhorn, the first one. And then we switch out in order to kill with Machoke and get a revenge off on the Kangaskhan, which revenge does double damage if you are hit first, which is pretty nice because we did, and then we killed it in one hit. Pretty nice, pretty good. I liked it. One problem though. In this game, especially in Fire Red and Leaf Green, we come to the trouble of interceding levels, specifically the level caps. In this game, one example that I'd like to make is that Giovanni is level 29. You know who else is level 29? Erica. If you overlevel your Pokemon that you need to be Erica, it's a no-go. You can't use them in the fight against Erica because they're overleveled. For example, my Eevee or my Vaporeon overleveled in this fight. Luckily, I wasn't going to use it, so I boxed it until I was done with the Erica fight. But that means that if you need to be very careful, because Pokemon that you have on your team, if they are leveled up and they're not ready for the next gym fight, then you could be in trouble. Koga and Suprina also go after this problem, as they are actually both the same level, so you do need to be careful. They're both level 43, so make sure your team is balanced. Luckily, they are two different types, meaning we only need a certain type to beat Sabrina and a certain type to beat Koga, which makes this pretty easy and not as hard. I guess maybe that's why they did that, but either way, it's not the nicest thing to have, and it's kind of annoying, to be honest. With Giovanni down in the Rocket Hideout, we decide to go to Erica's gym to finish off the early game. Although we do run across this man who's practically just a perv that didn't find himself someone to love over his life, aka he was probably a gamer. We go to take on Erica, which, to be honest, is a very easy fight. You really just need a Psychic type, which our Hypno covers. Although, Hypno did get hit a bit too hard by Victory Bell, we decided to switch it out. We killed the Tangela pretty easy with Golbat, or I don't really remember, or Pidgeotto, not really sure. And then the Violet Plume comes out, almost killing my Growlithe and a few other Pokemon in the process. It's pretty strong for a Violet Plume. But we make a switch into a faster Pokemon and kill this thing with a weak wing attack, getting us the Rainbow Badge, which leads us to get Giga Drain, which is another great move that we will use even later in this run, probably, because we want to make sure that we have all the right moves and we save them, because in this game, you only get one use of your TMs, so use them carefully. Some of them you can buy at the department store, along with the evolutionary stones like Water Stone, Fire Stone, Leaf Stone, and the Thunderstone. Please do be careful when using these are only one use, and make sure that your TMs are covered and the ones that you do need are in the department store, so be careful of that. As for that, early game ends there with Erica, in my opinion. Next, we will start off by taking off the Pokemon Tower in the next episode, but that's for later. I should stop doodling on. Thankfully, things went well, we didn't lose a lot of Pokemon, and this run, and all, was pretty fun. We're gonna continue it later. See you guys then, and I hope you all enjoyed and learned something along the way. Goodbye.